Whether it was shitting yourself, trying to replicate Goku's Kamehameha, melting Zelda OS in your brain cells, running around like a moron trying to find something better than a Ratata, or jumping around hoping to get crashed into a question block but ending up with permanent brain damage, we have all spent a lot of time consuming Legendary Legacy. I mean, too much time actually, but hey, it was good. Well, now I'd like to question you. Even with all this time with Lady Lost growing side by side with these titles, could you define what is a legacy? Of course I can define what's a legacy. Who do you take me for? It's the long-lasting impact of something. Well, I can't say you're wrong, as by definition a legacy is the long-lasting impact of events / actions / etc that happened in the past. Cheers, mate, you won! Yay! But now, let's raise the bar.
Anatolia Karpova!
Okay, but now let's get serious for a moment, and let me ask you, does your definition remain unfazed if you put gaming, anime, or really any other form of cultural art in front of our main topic? If your answer is no, then I'll try to change your mind. But if it's yes already, feel free to share it in the comments to see how close you can get. When associating fiction work with legacy, it's, at least in my humble opinion, very restrictive to give such a limiting meaning to those words. It feels very solid, while I would attribute to them a more liquid state. But now stop with figurative meanings, as my chemistry abilities won't allow me to go any further than this, and I'm already beyond my capabilities. So let's get literal. A media legacy does a lot really. It's not just an impact, it's the foundation of generation to come of art and culture, shaping its own and even other genre. For example, we need to thank Goku for years of screaming protagonists crying about never giving up and talking way too loud. Just joking, I love Naruto. I'd like to add that it's not really just something that happened in the past, as its past was only the start, the beginning. And here it gets interesting. This series stood the test of time and kept on evolving, growing on all fronts and doing something that's possible in very rare cases. And if you think about it, legacies are just like humanity. With our adaptabilities, we got ourselves through everything to stand on Earth as the reigning species over the others. Okay, after this humanity glaze insertion, let's get to the sauce. Don't worry, I know what you're thinking, and I'm no scammer whatsoever. So here's the question we are all here for. What built these legacies, and what got them to all this year, making them effectively timeless? Because yes, my goal wasn't just defining them, that's just a piece of the puzzle for the real aim of the video, and to fulfill this needed answer, I'll try my best to provide every information and piece of evidence, objective or not. In the purpose of doing so, I'll go through every characteristic that made those games, plus, to add a bit of spice, this feature will be positioned in a rising climax, from the gadget only to the essential one, those that make or break a legacy. Oh, and just to set the tone for the rest of the video, this was projected as an informative one, so it's not a tutorial. But hey, if you happen to create a multimillionaire company, congrats! Feel free to give me some credits and money, you know? Yeah, those are preferable. Identity. Where can we start? See, identity is really everything in a game or anime, and just like every vast thing, its definition is just as large. The identity is really just the style of our legacy, if we want to call it so. From its design to every single music note and back to each detail making the characters, the overall look and sound of the game. There has to be something distinct. For example, an ordinary car in a game doesn't take part of the identity, it is something normal, present in many other scenarios. What we're talking about here is each recognizable, original, in our case memorable elements that sums up to represent the world we get catapulted in when enjoying this media. I think that there's no better word than memorable to describe these sounds and depiction, as this is really their main goal if the company aims to make them transcend time. Music and visual art are ancient, and have been studied from way before we were even a thought in our parents' mind. And this translates into an insane use of these to literally engrave them in your brain, making sure you won't forget them anytime soon. But hey, I'm not just talking for the sake of it, in fact, I found quite the evidence to back it up. So lend me your imagination and think about this. You're casually logging in on Pokemon Go for the astonishing 14th time this day. Wow, actually this hour alone, oh my god. But, well, it's your time, so who cares? You see a Charizard nearby, you obviously go for it, but once you see it, it's black. It's a shiny Charizard. And this stimulus, as the Warnestorff effect suggests, will be easier to remember. A test was processed on a group of people that were presented a series of similar items, with one only exception, in dimension or way of being. These translate into more memorable expression than the other, and you don't look impressed. Ooh la la, what an interesting take, since when rare things are easier to remember? Well, you're not wrong, but if that's your take, now I'll be able to impress you, I promise. Yes, I promise. At least I think. In 1960, a group of participants were put at test, and to summarize all of it, they were presented with a series of words, and what it was found is that the less frequent ones were less memorable, while the most frequent ones were really familiar and more easy to recognize, suggesting that... What you looking at me for? What, now you're gonna tell us how Goku spamming Kamehamehas made it such an iconic move? Is that supposed to impress us? Okay, maybe these aren't really supposed to impress us, but I found really interesting how developers, animators, etc. are able to use opposite poles such as familiarity and distinctiveness as different patterns to make their works more memorable. And it's not even over, as they can literally come to engage with parts of our brain like the amygdala. No, not this one, yes, this one, in different ways to stimulate our memory, but I can't go over all of them here as it will need its own video really. Now I think I need to explain myself. Why something that seems so important such as identity is at the start of our rising climax. I know it sounds unreasonable, but let me explain. See, the fact is that at the end of the day it's really important, but it's something present in everything. Like, there's really few things so unoriginal to actually lack identity, so it's not really that special. It's not required to become a legacy, it's required for the game to be playable at least. Sure, a great identity will boost your games, but I feel like there are other components to our topic that are really the foundation of the longevity of the project, and one of these could be... And now we're talking. Influence. What an interesting word full of meaning. Influence is by definition the ability to affect something. In our case, thousands and thousands of people and creators leaving footprints of inspiration even decades after release. Influence is like the earth, and acts as a fertilizer giving life to new ideas and projects, marking inevitably everyone's life, more or less based on who you are. For example, it's full of people that don't even know what Zelda is. Call me crazy, but it's more than you will think. And in their endless TikTok doom scroll session, they come across a lot of Zelda's host. So this is exactly what I mean by influence from this colossus. Their way of shaping the future is so huge that I don't even have to back it up really. Like, to say the contrary, you must be on some real level of delusional, beyond me thinking I'm the smartest in every room I enter. And now, let me say it because I've always dreamt too. From great power come great responsibilities. And of course it applies to these companies as well. It wouldn't be a reach to say that they have generation of kids who, as we know, tend to be more gullible in their own hand. And wait, now that I think about it, this is kinda scary. Of course, there's a lot of other needs for a legacy to grow, such as consistency, loyal fanbase, and many others, but these are all way more natural and happen kinda on their own. Instead, I want to talk about another point. I tried to search about it online and didn't find anything. Asked ChatGPT and didn't mention it too. And I'm not gonna lie, all of these left me shocked. Because when looking at the video thumbnail, or just simply at any form of media that transcended time, there's one thing that just comes to my mind in few seconds. But I'm not gonna spoil it to you. We'll get there, I promise. But first, let me present you John Zweller. Zweller is the author of the cognitive load theory, a model that divides in three parts our memory: in order, sensory, working, and long-term memory. When an information approaches us, the sensory decides if it's better to forget it or not, and if it doesn't, it passes to the working one, which can process between 5 for noobs and 9 for pros chunks of information. And here is where it really decides if it's worth it, if it's capable of staying with us, if it can surpass every limit. Sorry, I got kinda worked up. It just became a long-term memory. I can read it on your face. You want to know how does this relate to our question? I'm getting there, just be patient. You and your attention span can wait. Another thing Zweller found out is that the simple things are obviously more memorable, and at this point, I know you can see the answer. It's simplicity. Allow me to explain. You really think that Zelda is complex? And Mario? Those are literally stories of male guy who want to save princess from evil guy. And Dragon Ball? Guy strong, we weak, so we scream, and now we strong. And don't get me started on Pokemon, oh boy. But don't come at me. These are still great titles. It's just very visible that this story lacks of complexity. They aren't 20th century boys and they aren't Disco Elysium either. But this is their strength. Simplicity just brings in indispensable advantage for long-term longevity. Not only it makes them easier to process for the brain, it also makes them way more accessible to every sort of public. That's why so many kids consume them, and I won't even take in consideration the nostalgia factor that there is from it, because this alone is enough. Let's recap. I can gladly say that we have analyzed legacies enough, what makes them and what keeps them alive. How the identity is an image from the past, but a timeless being of its own. We have confirmed how the influence of this title still lives up to this day, for both the conscious and not of us, shaping our day-to-day life. But most importantly, we have figured the important missing piece that made them stood up in our memory endlessly: their simplicity. If you've arrived at the end of the video, first of all, let me thank you. And if you want, subscribe, leave a like, and most importantly, comment what you think about the video. How much do you agree? How much you think the creator is a moron? And thanks for watching.